Good evening, everyone. This is Friday, September 14, 2018, just a little bit after 9 o'clock. Welcome to another episode of the Carolina Weather Group as we continue to track what is now Tropical Storm Florence. For this whole past week, we've been tracking Florence, and we can happily say it's no longer a hurricane, but still a strong tropical storm. Made landfall earlier this morning about 7:15 in Wrightsville Beach. And since then has been producing a lot of heavy rain, storm surge, tornadoes, and damaging winds along the eastern North Carolina area, as well as northeast South Carolina. We have on with us tonight again our panelists, Jared Smith in Charleston, South Carolina, and Shay Gibson also in Charleston, South Carolina. Ricky Matthews joins us from Bristol, Tennessee, and I'm Scotty Powell here in the foothills of North Carolina. Chris Jackson is on his way back from Myrtle Beach, where he has been covering Hurricane Florence all day today. And Chris is not able to join us tonight as he's trying to navigate his way back home. So we hope that we'll be able to share some of his videos and footage and pictures throughout the weekend once we get those in. So with that, we do have the 8 o'clock advisory in from the National Hurricane Center. So Jared Smith, I will give it to you so you can give us the latest.
Yep, sounds good. Let me get my screen shared, everybody. Good evening, everyone. It's been a long day, to put it mildly, and we are not out of the woods yet. Let me get my NHC up. I don't know why it wasn't letting me do that, but here we go. All right. So all right, so we got screen. All right, so screen shares up. So this is the 8 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center on Tropical Storm Florence. Currently, right on the North Carolina South Carolina border. It's moving west at 3 miles an hour, just crawling along. Max sustained winds of 70 miles an hour. It is going to move towards Columbia and then take a really fast turn up the mountains, over the Blue Ridge into the woods, so to speak, right into Ohio. So if you're in Ohio, look out, you're under a post-tropical depression warning. I'm just kidding. But in the meantime, you can see we have a very large wind field here, and Eastern North Carolina is still getting just absolutely smashed right now. Just a lot of just tremendous rainfall. And just quickly go over the warnings that we have. A lot of the warnings were able to be pulled back after the storm is downgraded. So we only now have a storm surge warning from Myrtle Beach to Salvo, North Carolina, Pamlico Sound, including the Neuse and Pamlico Rivers, and a tropical storm warning for Edisto Beach to Cape Hatteras and Pamlico Sound. So that's it as far as warnings. And we do have a lot of inland. We have a lot of inland tropical weather. So it will be it's it's going to be a blustery couple days across the area before this guy lifts out. So Scotty, back to you, and get on rolling.
All right, thank you for that, Jared. I'm going to toss it to Shay. And Shay, not really much modeling left in track in Florence, but talk to us about what we can expect with the track wise, at least for the next few days.
Well, Scotty, that's a good question. So track-wise, there was a lot of uncertainty once it made landfall or came close to the coast of the European, kept driving it further to the south. And then we saw the westerly tracks from GFS, the UCMET, there's other models as well. The ships is what the NHC sort of is going by out through the decaying ships model and driving it to the west and up into the Appalachians. So I'm not actually afraid to show the deterministic runs at this point. Let me see if I can pull this up and run the model for the GFS. Now, at this point, there's so much agreement that it's okay, I think, to run single deterministic models to sort of show some guidance. And we're right here at hour 0. This is right about now. And the GFS does take this along right through the Midlands of South Carolina and up through the Appalachians. And you can see the high pressure in this frame here. This is what it's going to be going around. So this ridge right here in the Atlantic still firmly in place. And we're going to be seeing this southerly draw up the lee side of the Appalachian Mountains. And this is going to be lifting up and around it and joining a trough as an upper low moves across the Great Lakes. And then we're going to see this race off to the northeast and potentially cause some issues up in the northeast with some heavy rainfalls up that way. The other Euro ensemble, we go to the Euro, comes back to, this is from noon today, so the initialization is actually back over near Wilmington. So we have to sort of take about 12 hours, well, I wouldn't say 12, more like 8 hours out of that. and then go forward. This one still draws it just a hair south of GFS through the PD River Valley up through Columbia, and then basically the same scenario. Now it does draw it off the northeast coast a little bit further to the south. It makes that ridge a little sharper on the western edge. And if we go to the NAM 3 kilometer, let's run this one out. This is a 6 o'clock one from tonight. And this one's a slower, higher resolution model, so we get a little bit better picture. But we see a little bit of wobbling, and that's going to be typical for something like this because the center isn't really a center anymore. It's really just a bunch of rain echoes. We don't have per se an eye wall anymore like we did before. So the system, basically all the agreement is for it to sort of sweep down to the west-southwest up through the state and then up the Appalachian Mountains. And Scotty, that's going to pose some serious problems for the mountainous zones as that moisture pushes to the east. The NHC rainfall maps. I don't know if I have time to throw those up real quick. Let's see. I know that the tropical storm force winds do extend 175 miles out beyond the center, and so we're going to be seeing a lot of tropical storm force winds and gusty winds around the rain bands really thrown around the entire southeast region. The latest rainfall map here, this is from 5:14 p.m. today, shows an additional 15 to 20 inches on top of what's already going on here. So the NHC does state an additional 20 to 30 inches. So we could end up with totals of 40 inches plus for some of these spots. And it's not looking too good. These heavier rains are starting to push a little bit further into western North Carolina and across towards just south of Charlotte and up towards Indian Hill, South Carolina, and pushing to the west. So rainfall totals going up to the west, but they're not going up to the south. Now the rain banding could make it down into the Charleston area. I did say sort of a swath of 4 to 10 inches of rain if we start to get those banding. I don't think 10 may be achievable at this point with the track that's going on and the weakening phase that's going on. So we'll have to wait and see what's going on there. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't show that map. So let me put this up and I'll pass it back to you, Scotty.
All right, thank you for that, Shay. I'm going to toss it to Ricky Matthews. Ricky, Hurricane Florence at the time produced some records and some breaking news throughout the day, and I know you've got a list compiled of what all has happened today, so I'll let you go with that. Oh, you're on mute, Ricky.
There we go. Wonderful technology. Hey, I've been off for a couple of days. New Bern, North Carolina, probably one of the hardest hit communities in North Carolina from Florence. We've got some numbers. 360 people have been rescued so far. About 140 are still needing to get rescued per NBC News. So still a very serious situation unfolding in New Bern. The surge came up last night, reached about 10 feet, according to a USGS gauge. Some unofficial reports as well across the town showed that it could be closer to 13 feet, which would have eclipsed any previous surge that they've seen in New Bern. One of our sister stations, WCTI, had to be evacuated last night. We saw some pictures today of water inside the TV studio. So a bad situation there. Unfortunately, we have had 5 deaths so far reported. Mother and infant were killed in Wilmington when a tree fell on their house. The father was able to be rescued, but he was in unknown condition at the time of when we checked on that. Also had a couple more deaths. One kind of odd one where a guy was found just outside. They believe he maybe was checking on his hunting dogs, and strong winds or something may have blown him over, an older gentleman. And so they found him outside. Also had an electrocution in portions of eastern North Carolina where someone tried to plug 2 electrical cords together during the heavy rain. And finally, one medical incident where the EMS crews could not respond due to the bad weather. So 5 deaths so far total from Florence in the state of North Carolina. About 521,000 customers from Duke Energy without power. Some of the stats coming in so far. Of course, we had the landfall this morning around 7:15 a.m. as a Category 1 hurricane. The Morehead City report so far for rainfall, this is kind of crazy, guys. 23.04 inches of rain, and that's just in the past 24 hours.
Yeah, Ricky, and I'm sure that's going to be added onto it as the rain continues to fall over that area. Also, with the passing of Florence, Wilmington, if I got this correctly, it was the 2nd highest wind gust ever reported at the Wilmington airport. Is that true? Is that right? Is that what I heard?
I believe that it gusted up to, I want to say it was 105 or 107 earlier today when the eye wall was approaching.
Yeah, it was, and I think it was the first time since 1950 something that they had seen a wind gust that high. We've been seeing all kinds of pictures and videos from along the east coast or the southeast coast of North Carolina, southeastern North Carolina. Just a lot of devastation down there. And for folks, we're going to try to bring in Christian Schmidt here. He is actually in Charlotte, North Carolina tonight. A lot of folks are seeking shelter away from the coast. They're going to these shelters, and Christian is there working in one. And Christian, we had a little audio problem, so I'm hoping that you can hear me now. Are you there?
I am here. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes, you sound great. Sounds great. So Christian, you were located in Charlotte working at one of these shelters. How's the attendance been so far today? Have you been seeing a steady stream of people move in?
Well, we are actually just a little bit south of Charlotte in Pineville at Harrison United Methodist Church. And we actually were expecting to see more people. We thought by now there'd be a much greater influx of people. I talked to some people over at Ardrey Kell High School, and they were actually expecting a larger influx of people as well. They can handle probably 60 times the people we can handle. But earlier this afternoon, we went over there to check on them, and they had very few people as well, which is kind of shocking with the notification that we had and the amount of time to prepare. We really thought we were going to have more people by now.
Chris, I got a question. Obviously, with Charlotte and portions of central North Carolina expecting heavy and rainfall and flooding over the next couple of days, do you expect kind of an influx of people that may be having to be evacuated out of their homes across the Charlotte area?
We do. We actually, the most inquiries we got today were when in Ballantyne and in South Charlotte, the power went out with Duke Energy. I think they said they had about 3,000 people without power. Union County, I think the last I saw was a couple thousand people. That's when we started getting a lot more inquiries, especially people with children. Do we have a spot for kids? We actually had some recent mothers asking about freezer space for breast milk and that kind of things. Can we accommodate that? So we've seen an uptick in inquiries, but we still have not seen an uptick in arrivals.
Talk about the people who come to the shelter. I mean, what do they need to know if someone in the next couple of days has family or friends or somebody that they know that may need to be sheltered? What's the things you want them to know before they come out?
The thing that you should do first is make sure the shelter is open and available. We are going through rolling power outages right now. We're expecting to lose more power. Make sure the shelter has power. They are able to take you. A lot of people think that you can bring your pets to every shelter, and that's not the case. You don't want to get turned away, and we don't want to turn away people with pets, and we don't want to turn away pets, but some shelters don't take pets, and please, please, please have your prescription medicine with you. If it gets as bad as it's saying with the power being down and the roads being flooded, we have no way to get you medicine. You need to have your medicine.
These are great points there, Christian. With the heaviest rain expected to move into Charlotte tomorrow and Sunday, I'm sure, Charlotte's a very urbanized area, and there's not a lot of runoff for all this heavy rain to go. So definitely feel like that there's going to be some major flooding in Charlotte. So with those numbers increasing, most likely the folks who may need shelter, how long are you anticipating to be open?
Well, we are planning to be here. I mean, we're planning on being here as long as people need it. We have some resources to where we can get you in touch with the Red Cross and other various things if it needs to be longer. But, ultimately our thought is hopefully the residents of Charlotte, if you're a local resident, would be going home hopefully Monday, maybe Tuesday night. But really that's just going to depend, on so many external factors we have no control, but we're not where we're at. We're not kicking anybody out until it's safe to go home.
That's good to know. And if folks who are really not, everybody's going to be affected by the storm, but if their property, homes and stuff are not affected and they want to reach out to you guys, maybe volunteer some time or maybe even some supplies, how can they do that?
We actually have a supply list at the Harrison United Methodist Church Facebook page. It's also on the Harrison Church Missions Facebook page. And you can go to, if you go to the verbproject.org Facebook page, that's my individual charity I do on the side. There's a list of items there. You can also call the church main telephone number, which is 704-541-7710. If we don't answer, we'll get back to you. There's going to be somebody here. I'm going to be here until Monday. So if I don't get to it, I will get to it. And you can always leave us a message on the Facebook page, and we're checking that as well.
Awesome information. Before we cut you loose and let you go, is there anything else you'd like for maybe our listeners or followers tonight, maybe that you'd like for them to know?
Just think before you do anything. Be safe, and if you're in a bad situation, please check with your neighbor because they're probably in a bad situation too. Let's not leave anybody behind. And let's make sure we're taking care of each other and ourselves through this whole storm.
All right, Christian. Well, we appreciate you cutting out a little bit of time for us tonight. And if there's anything we can do for you over the weekends, help spread the word for something, don't hesitate to let us know. And we'll definitely we'll help in any way we can.
All right. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, that's Christian Schmidt from Pineville talking about some shelters that are opening up for not only folks who are in the Charlotte area who may be affected by flooding, but those who may be seeking refuge away from the coast. So now let's go into our region by region. Let's bring in Jared first, who is going to do the Charleston area tonight because Shay's going to kind of pitch it for Chris and do the Columbia area. So Jared, you guys seen the initial burst of moisture move in from Florence, and now things are kind of calmed down. But what does what does it look like for the next 12 to 24 hours?
Yeah, in the initial burst of moisture really wasn't much. I got a few. It's a tropical sprinkle so far down here, which I know is a far cry from north of here. But it's we've been fighting off a lot of dry air on the back end here, and it's so we got some good wind gusts come through. 53-mile-an-hour wind gusts right now at the airport a few hours ago. We've got a few power lines down now. A few trees down. Tree went down on a house in the town of Goose Creek, in the city of Goose Creek. They would not forgive me if I got that wrong. So there have been a couple damage reports coming in. So and that is going to continue. We're going to have tropical storm force winds mixing in a little later tonight, overnight into tomorrow, and then once the center circulation starts to kind of accelerate away, then those tropical storm force winds are going to shut off, and we'll be all right. Rainfall is an interesting thing. If this thing keeps tracking a little bit more westward than southward, it's definitely going to reduce the rainfall that we see. In fact, the Weather Service has drawn back on the rainfall totals since this morning's forecast. They've revised back a couple inches. So Shay's got this up on the screen right now. Thank you, Shay. He's got 3 to 4 inches in Moncks Corner, 2 to 3 inches in Somerville, 2 to 3 inches in Charleston. And that's a really tight gradient too, because you get up towards Jamestown, which is right along the Santee River in Berkeley County. And that is going to get closer to maybe 6 to 7 inches. Then the Santee River is going to go into flood with the upstream stuff. So it's going to be very interesting to see, hopefully the rainfall isn't too bad and it doesn't cause that Santee River to rise faster. Definitely something that we're going to watch.
All right, thank you for that report, Jared. Let's bring it to Shay Gibson, who, Shay, you're going to cover the Columbia area. A lot of questions streaming in about what's going to happen in the Columbia area, rainfall-wise and stuff like that. So what's the latest there?
Okay, Scotty, thank you. I'm going to, like you said, pinch hit for Chris Jackson tonight. He's unfortunately not with us. He tried to make it back, but I tell you, he had a heck of a time getting out of the Grand Strand area, and I think he got stalled up in Florence, so he may be doing Florence in Florence. So that's the latest from him. This comes from Frank Alsheimer from the Columbia office. The overview: tropical center storm. Let's see, tropical storm Florence near the South Carolina North Carolina border, near the Little River Inlet. Let's see here, maximum winds of 70. That's come down a little bit. Let's see, tropical storm warning. So the current watches, warnings, and or advisories as of 5:30 p.m. today. Tropical storm warning in effect for Chesterfield, Lee, Sumter, Clarendon, Calhoun, Orangeburg, Lancaster, Kershaw, Fairfield, Richland, Lexington counties. Additional counties may need to be added in later updates. So let me reemphasize that A tropical storm warning means that tropical storm winds will be in your area within the next 36 to 48 hours. And the flash flood watch is also in effect for those counties as well. Most of those counties. I think Orangeburg's now included in there. In fact, that was mentioned the top one. But you can go to the National Weather Service Columbia to see this product. It's in the risk category. So in expected impacts, looking at 1 to 2 inch amounts across the CSRA, 3 to 8 inches across the Central Midlands, and 8 to 15 inches in the Northern Midlands and PD. So huge difference. Like Jared said, the gradient to the south versus up to the north, where this storm is going to be pushing that easterly flow all the way in towards the mountains. We're expecting winds, tropical storm force winds of 35 to 45 miles per hour with gusts up to 55. Expected in the areas under the tropical storm warnings. CSRA and Western Midlands may see 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts, 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts to 45. One thing that they're stressing is that you may see power outages due to downed trees and other things as well. Isolated tornadoes will be possible there as well. And the potential timing will be from tonight and Saturday for the Eastern Midlands and PD, Central Midlands, including Columbia Metro, Saturday and Saturday night. Winds will diminish on Sunday, and that goes for the coastal counties of South Carolina as well. Things will start to get back to normal on Sunday for us here as well. Here's your storm rainfall totals going by zone. Let me zoom in. Let me see if I can. I wonder if this PDF will let me do it. Yep, sure does. And you can see here the difference to the north up at Lancaster, Cheraw, with 10 inches plus of rain, and then all the way over here to Augusta and Aiken only getting an inch, maybe 2 inches. So huge difference there in the rainfall amounts. So know your zone. Know that right down the middle of Columbia, you're looking somewhere around 2 to 4 inches of rain in the Metro Columbia area, and then it gets considerably higher as you head to the northeast. If we go to maximum wind gusts, here's the map here. We're looking at gusts into the 40s for most of Columbia, into the 50s to the eastern and northeastern quadrants of Columbia, and then also way over here in Lincolnton, Thomason, looking gusts in the upper 20s to low 30s most likely there. So that's the that's CAE in a nutshell for you, Scotty. I don't think I have very much more than that. Unless we get some viewer questions, I might be able to look up a little bit of information. But really what it is that the track of that storm going just north of Columbia and keeping that dry sliding around the western and southern sides of it. And that's what it really comes down to. So back to you.
All right, thank you for that, Shay. I'm going to toss it to Ricky Matthews. He's going to cover eastern North Carolina and the Piedmont areas. But Ricky, over the last couple of minutes, there's been numerous tornado warnings issued.
Yeah, we have 2 tornado warnings in effect right now in this band that's pretty much been impacting Onslow up in Jones County, Lenoir, for really the past couple of hours. This has been a very heavy, potent band. There's 2 primary areas that we're concerned about. It's this area here in Jones County. Any tornado will be basically just the south of Trenton right now. We'll put on a different mode for you and show you right near the town of Jones. So this is near some of these streets here that go up. That's State Road 41, just the north end west of there. A lot of this is farmland, and unfortunately probably flooded farmland tonight. But a lot of farmland out here. One that's in a little bit of a more populated area is this one up towards Seven Springs, North Carolina. We'll show you the velocity. It's very hard to see because of just kind of the motion of these storms in tropical environments, but there it is. Once I put Storm Relative on, you can see it very well. Just to the west of Seven Springs, this is very close to Cabin Creek Drive and also State Road 1949. This is going to be approaching what is U.S. Highway 117 here. So up towards the Brogan area, south of Marmac, that's where this potential tornado is heading. I'm going to turn on correlation coefficient to see if we see any debris, and it's I'm not spotting anything there. It's a very cluttered image from the radar. We're going out of the Morehead City radar. But 2 tornado warnings in effect. These tornado warnings are going to go until 9:45 for Wayne County. And this warning here to the south and west, that one goes until 9:45 as well for Jones, Western Craven, and northeastern Onslow. The heaviest bands of rain we've been seeing here over the past couple hours have definitely been across Onslow County. Morehead City obviously seeing some very hefty rainfall totals today. There's kind of 2 primary bands that are setting up. One from basically the Goldsboro area down to the coast towards Jacksonville. Actually, a slight break, which is a wonderful thing here between the Jacksonville area and as you go into Pender County. But another heavy rain band setting up near Wilmington. I'm not sure if the Wilmington radar is back up yet. I think it may still be down. Yep, looks like it. But the heavy rain band they're setting up for Wilmington, that's a great amount of moisture coming off the ocean. So incredibly concerned about heavy rainfall totals increasing across that area. I'm going to show you some different images here. We're going to talk about the flood threat not only in eastern North Carolina, but also into portions of, let me get the right map up here, portions of the Central Carolina region. This is the National Weather Service forecast for rainfall for the next 72 hours. And you notice these incredibly heavy rainfall totals of 13, 14 inches here as we go into portions of southern North Carolina, right near the South Carolina state border, towards Fayetteville, towards Lumberton. Heavy rainfall into eastern Mecklenburg County. We could see 8 to potentially 12 inches of rain for Mecklenburg County. And that could cause some significant flooding. Here is the WPC high risk zone for flooding. Basically, when you have a high risk zone for flooding, that's about as bad as it can get. These things aren't issued just at the drop of a hat. These are serious things when they're issued. And you notice that high risk extends all the way into the Charlotte metro area for the Saturday timeframe, stays there for Sunday, and then actually includes a good portion of western North Carolina, where we're going to be more concerned about the potential for landslides and heavy rain. But not just the rain tomorrow and into Sunday is going to be a concern. We're also going to have to talk about all this rain coming down from portions of Winston-Salem and Raleigh and up into the high country of North Carolina. All of it flows towards the coast. So we're not talking about just a one-day event. We're talking about potentially a week event, maybe even longer in terms of river flooding. You can see very clearly here where that heavy band is set up today, near areas of Jacksonville, North Carolina, towards Onslow, and then up along the Trent River here from Mount Olive down towards the coast. Incredible rainfall totals estimated by radar here. I'm not sure if we can pull up any. There's one. See if it queried it. It's popping on. But anyway, incredibly heavy rainfall totals in these areas estimated by radar, and underestimating those a little bit, but certainly some incredibly heavy totals. Let's see if we can flip on the observations here real quick, and I'll show you some of these numbers. There's an 8 number. There's a 16.9 from New Bern area, 8.13 Surf City. Down here towards Sunny Point, we've got almost 8 inches of rain. A lot of these could be much lower than they actually are, Scotty, just from some of the numbers I've been seeing in other gauges.
Yeah, Ricky, and I want to pull up this Weather Service chat here because over the Morehead City office, they've issued a flash flood emergency for, let me see if I can find it right quick because I want to read it verbatim.
Scotty, while you're looking at that, I wanted to show this really quick. This is the HRRR 3 kilometer. It's just a fairly good precip model that we use, and this shows the next 18 hours of the progression of the storm and the rainfall amount totals. This is a simulation, and you can see the extensive banding just coming in off the Gulf Stream nonstop into southeastern and eastern North Carolina, all the way up through the Outer Banks. It is it's just incredible how much more rain this storm may be generating off the Atlantic Ocean.
So Shay, a couple interesting things that remind me that I want to bring up here. So first off, with Harvey, I've been told the HRRR, and from what I remember watching with Harvey, it did a pretty dang good job of trying to nail out where those heavy bands were going to be. So I would not be afraid to put a lot of trust into that model, and especially the QPF values that it spits out. I know for a lot of people, it may look crazy, but I totally trust the amounts it's putting out. The other thing that reminds me of, I know it's a little bit of a different setup, but remember, this reminds me a lot of, what was the hurricane's name that set right off the coast that impacted South Carolina a whole lot?
South Carolina coast. Do you remember about what year?
Fire hose.
Oh, that was Joaquin. Yeah, October 2015. That was a Category 5 down there, and that was a trifecta setup where it just aimed the atmospheric river directly over us. That was,
And I know we don't have the exact same setup with the atmospheric river stuff, but I mean, these bands coming on are going to be producing heavy rainfall that have crazy rainfall amounts. So scary situations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it reminds me a little bit of Irma too. You know, it in not necessarily in the sense of it coming into the Gulf, but like the banding situation looks very much like that, because that, I mean, it was basically a fire hose aimed at us during Irma.
So I found this from the Weather Service in Morehead City. This is from one of their meteorologists. It was issued at 7:06 p.m., but I believe just from the radar that we've just been seeing that constant rain still flowing into Carteret, Jones, Craven, and Pamlico counties. Flash flood emergency. And this is just, I'm going to read verbatim what it says. The unprecedented rainfall approaching 2 feet in Carteret County is being exacerbated by an intense rain band that extends into nearby counties. Widespread flooding is occurring. We at the National Weather Service are having difficulty communicating this to the public. We appeal to you all, our partners, to help us spread the word on this particularly dangerous situation. Most roads across the county are becoming impassable. Citizens are losing time to evacuate before the floodwaters become too high. So that was an urgent cry out from the Weather Service there, talking about just this intense flash flooding scenario that's going on in Pamlico and Carteret and Craven and Jones counties. 2 feet of water is almost measured there. Like Ricky said earlier, 23.04 inches of rain had been measured at the Weather Service office in Morehead City. Just a dire situation there. And guys, we don't compare storms like we were just talking about, but some of these stories that we're hearing is really reminiscent of what we saw last year in Houston with Harvey.
I'd say if there's one good thing, it's that so far, knock on wood, we've had less tornado warnings. And so that's a blessing so far. Let's see if I can show you my screen real quick, because I thought this was interesting. I was asking on Twitter if there was a possibility of showing just the flash flood emergencies, and the fine folks at Weather Nation have managed to do that with the Barron system, which is kind of cool here. So basically, here's the flash flood emergencies that are in place right now from New Bern down to Havelock, including Carteret County, Atlantic Beach area, then up towards Goldsboro and just the south and east of Raleigh, another flash flood emergency in place. So serious flooding ongoing across parts of North Carolina.
And Ricky, like you were talking about the high risk that the Weather Prediction Center was issuing for the heavy rain and flash flooding, these flash flood emergencies are very rare as well. We don't see a lot of these being issued. And I think, what was it, 4 that we had just seen there? 4 separate warnings. So
4 separate counties at least.
4 separate counties, yeah. So very dangerous situation going on in eastern North Carolina. Well, as Ricky and Shay was talking about earlier, that heavy rain threat is going to shift to the foothills of North Carolina. And so overnight tonight, we're going to see that rain band shift across the Piedmont and then make it into the foothills, where we could see anywhere between 6 to 10 inches of rain locally, with higher amounts along the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I think Shay's got it pulled up right now. This is what we call the escarpment. And Shay, actually, I've got a slide in my email from the Weather Service I'm going to pop up right quick. And then I will let you, if you will present me to everyone.
Sure thing. You got it.
Let me pull it up right quick. So this is from the National Weather Service in Greenville, South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg. Let me see if I can, is that better? Can you guys see it better now? So here's some of the rainfall predictions. This little area that they have circled, that's what we call the escarpment. That's where this air is going to be pushed up against the mountains, and it's going to create lift. And when we see that, we see these more intense rainfall bands that really set over portions of Polk and Rutherford, Buncombe, McDowell, Burke, Caldwell counties, Rutherford County, I think, if I didn't mention that. And we see what could be almost doubled of what you may see off of the mountain. So this area right here is of particular interest because we could see anywhere, around 12 inches or more in that area. But if you look back towards Charlotte, 11 inches, Gastonia almost 10, Lincolnton and Hickory, Morganton approaching 8 to 9 inches of rain. So we are seeing a lot of different high amount rainfall totals. But as Shay was talking about earlier, there's a really tight gradient. Greenville, South Carolina, maybe 2 inches. If you look up into Franklin, North Carolina, maybe even an inch. And so this is where the low pressure is supposed to make that turn close to the Waynesville area, Brevard. And so all cities or locations on the left-hand side of that low pressure, where Bryson City, Franklin, Clayton, Georgia, Robbinsville, you're not going to see as much moisture as you do if you're on the right side of the circulation. So definitely some high rainfall totals. Flash flooding is definitely the #1 concern in western North Carolina. Here's a look at some of the wind gusts for Sunday. We're looking at wind gusts, maybe 30, 25 to 35, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That combined with the heavy rainfall that we're going to see over the foothills. Oh, better stop that. That combined with the heavy rainfall that we're going to see over the foothills could definitely bring the opportunity to see down power lines and trees. And also the possibility of seeing mudslides and landslides. Back in late May, Tropical Storm Alberto moved through the area and produced numerous mudslides and landslides in western North Carolina. And, those areas just now recovering from those landslides, and now we're facing another threat of landslides and mudslides and sinkholes. So that's definitely tornado threat. As those bands move through the area, we could see a few quick spin-up tornadoes, but definitely flash flooding and those landslides are our biggest concern. So that is what it looks like in western North Carolina. I kind of want to reset here. It's 9:45 p.m. on the East Coast, September 14th, 2018. We're continuing our coverage with talking about Tropical Storm Florence. And Jared, earlier today, we saw the Hurricane Center put out the advisory that we all were like, whew, well, Florence still a strong storm and something we don't want to contend with, but at least it's not holding on to that hurricane status.
Yeah, Scotty, I mean, I think that we're all kind of believe that we're not dealing with a Cat 4 landfall. I think that you talk to us Monday or Tuesday this week and we're petrified. So I got to say that, it's not a Cat 4 wind landfall, but it is a Cat 4, is a Cat 3 surge. I mean, and that surge is continuing, even though it's quote unquote just a tropical storm. There's no such thing as just a tropical storm. Ask Houston about Harvey and Allison for that matter. So yes, Tropical Storm Florence as of 8 p.m. It was downgraded at 5. Max sustained wind 70 miles an hour, moving west at 3, just kind of drifting out there very slowly. And it's right on the border of South Carolina, North Carolina, and it's going to head towards the Midlands out of the PD. And in fact, the center may pass right over Florence. So, irony being what it is. And it's going to turn to the north and then just accelerate out of here by Monday. And we cannot wait. We cannot wait to see it go. So yeah. So Shay's going to do some. I think Shay's going to do some questions, and we'll go from there.
All right. Yeah, I got a couple of questions here. I'm sifting through them, everyone. And thanks a lot for everybody for watching and asking the questions. I'm going to pick out a couple here. One of them is from Glenn Hathaway. Asks, has Myrtle Beach been wiped out? And the answer is no, it has not been wiped out, but they are getting hammered right now. They started out a little bit on the light side last night, and then things got progressively worse into the early morning hours. And then today we had Chris Jackson up there giving us some live coverage. But he said when he was leaving, it looked like a war zone. So we know there's extensive damage in the Myrtle Beach area, especially North Myrtle up towards Cherry Grove. So we'll be waiting to see some pictures. Tomorrow, daytime, will be revealed. There'll be a lot of pictures and a lot of video coming out of there. There's already some feeding through tonight from folks that were in that area and further up. Let's see. Aaron Eade down here in Charleston, South Carolina asks, will we get more negative surge tomorrow? Please say yes. Well, he has his reasons for that, but the bottom line is negative surge tomorrow is going to be highly dependent on where the storm is. So if we start to we have a wraparound westerly flow now. And if we get into tomorrow and that westerly flow starts to bend a little bit more south, that means if the storm lifts a further north, we get a little bit of a south element into that, and then we get a west-southwest. If that happens, we won't get a negative surge. We'll likely stay on track for the tides that are expected to be in place. But if we get a southwest flow of anything 20 knots and higher, we could actually get a little bit of a surge from that. So anytime we get an onshore flow, that's when we're at risk of having a surge, especially from a tropical system. The good thing is we won't have a surge ahead of a storm to deal with. It'll just be an onshore southwest flow like normal. So we're looking at maybe, something like that. If we're getting 20 to 25 knots of southwest flow, we're talking maybe half a foot, maybe a foot at the most. And with heavy rainfalls, the inundation could be greater than that, which is why the Weather Service called for 2 to 4 feet, 4 being on the high side, 2 being on the more expected side at the very most, as far as the minimum part goes. So that's kind of where we're at. I think there was some skepticism about what was going to play out tomorrow as far as onshore versus offshore flow. It looks like some of the models I ran for the wind report, for the southeast wind and wind alert and everything, the wind forecast, I kind of put west-southwest cautiously. I wasn't entirely sure if we get the southwest flow. So we'll see. But that's a good one right there. A lot of questions about other parts of the state. Lancaster, we did that earlier. Lexington, several trees down, outages. Thank you, Robin, for that report. Let's see here. A couple of other questions. Really just a lot of people kind of chatting here, and this is good, and saying thanks for the updates. And so you're very welcome. We're glad to bring them to you. Red Bank, Beaufort, North Carolina. Well, that's up in that zone where the surge is going to be high. More rain, more rain for Beaufort, North Carolina. That's all I can say. More rain and more wind. Aiken County, I think we covered that earlier in our rain outputs and wind outputs. And Linda D'Amico, and I'll bring one more. She asks or says, would love to have a transcript of this show so I can get the info I missed. And Linda, you can always, when this show ends, you can always go back and watch it again. So, as soon as we are finished, the show will populate on Facebook. It takes about 2 to 5 minutes tops, and then you can watch it all over again from the beginning. Back to you, Scotty.
All right, thank you for that, Shay. I was looking through the Weather Service chat that we have internally. All 4 of us have access to that. Just looking at the Raleigh-Durham area in Wayne County, they are reporting 5 water rescues so far this evening. Also, in Johnston County, emergency management reporting numerous roads washed out throughout the area. There was a report. There's in Goldsboro. Goldsboro, there is a nursing home facility that is being evacuated. Also, a report of many submerged cars underwater in Goldsboro. So that is some of the things that are going on in the Raleigh-Durham area. I think Ricky, there's a new tornado warning issued. So Ricky, I will let you get that. But I do want to talk about floods and roadways and stuff like that before we go off the air. So go ahead, Ricky.
All right, yeah, this is a new tornado warning, kind of a continuation of the tornado warning that we had earlier for portions of Jones County. This one is going to be for northwestern portions of Jones County, the southwestern portion of Lenoir County, and Duplin County until 10:30. Very fast-moving storm, northwest at 55 miles per hour. It's in one of these outside spiral bands of Florence. I'm looping it here for you real quick, and you can see it's that cell that was over Jones County now moving into Lenoir County. This is going to stay south of the town of Kingston, but Seven Springs technically not in the warning, but potentially in the area that may be impacted. You can see the couplet here passing right over U.S. Road 258 down as you go into portions of southwestern Jones County. This is going to be in the southern portions of Lenoir. Also expected to cross over Highway 11 south. So heads up in the Seven Springs area, this storm heading your direction. Just got a new radar scan in there. We'll zoom a little bit closer, and I'll turn on correlation coefficient once again. Still not seeing any debris, but certainly a nice little tornado signature and a nice little couplet, we say, where those greens and reds are coming together. We also have another product we can look at called NROT. That's kind of a measure of the spin in the atmosphere. And anytime it goes to green, that's when we start getting concerned for potentially a tornado that could develop very quickly or has already developed. So we'll watch that warning carefully, Scotty, as it continues to move to the north and west towards Wayne County.
Definitely so, Ricky. And it's just very unfortunate seeing these tornado warnings happen on over these areas that are seeing extreme flooding. And so just a double whammy there. So we want to give our best wishes and thanks and gratitude to the fine folks working at the National Weather Service in Morehead City and Raleigh and Wilmington and Columbia and Charleston, Greenville, South Carolina, Blacksburg, Morristown, all of those areas that are covering this storm. So one thing I wanted to talk about, and I want to share my screen here, Shay. So and Ricky, I want maybe you and Shay talk about this because you guys love hurricanes. And I just found this amazing today. pull it up here. You guys want to talk about this tweet that we saw about the amazing accuracy the Hurricane Center had?
Yeah, the exact landfall location, just very, very minuscule differences between where it actually came ashore and where the hurricane was predicted to come ashore, which is crazy. And, to me, Shay, it kind of shows how well the Hurricane Center did. And despite what seemed like model craziness, and there was, don't get me wrong, model craziness over the past couple of days, their forecast didn't waver that much. And you can kind of go back and look at the graphics archive and see that it didn't really waver that much. It was really just spot on almost.
Yeah, Ricky, I can construct that before we get done with the show here and show the last 5 days track. But yeah, they nailed Irma last year. They have really stepped it up the last few years. And what they do is they put so much model integration into their product, and they instead of taking these giant leaps of faith, they really just sort of take it out 3 to 5 days with so much caution and so much in-depth studies and research into what they're doing. And not only that, but the models are getting better. The GFS went through an upgrade last year. They're getting another upgrade soon. The margin of error is starting to sort of shrink in the modeling a little bit, and especially the Euro with this one. I don't know exactly what the margin of error in the Euro model was for this particular system, but I tell you what, it posed a lot of problems for forecasting with this system. And I did see a graph where the Euro actually had more margin of error than the other ones did. But hats off to them for not taking a full swing with the Euro and being a little bit more cautious about it and considering everything. And, there's ensembles and all the members and going right down the middle and just keeping it modest right down the middle of everything.
It was an amazing stat. So 2 miles, guys, and that was issued on Sunday. So I was blown away with that. In fact, I did a briefing with our emergency management operations team, and I showed them that tweet, and I said, this is why we need to follow what the Hurricane Center is saying. I mean, just amazing accuracy. So we're going to start to wrap up here. It's almost 10 o'clock, but I do want to remind folks, over the next day or two, especially in Raleigh and Charlotte, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Hickory, Asheville, Columbia, Greenville, South Carolina, Spartanburg, places like that, we're going to see some flooding. And please remember, if there's barricades up blocking a road, do not go around them. If that roadway is flooded out, we don't know. We can't see where the road's at with water flowing over it. There could be a sinkhole there and be washed away. So make sure that you follow those directions. Don't be crossing any flooded roadways. Also, if you're asked to leave your house due to evacuations, just do it. There's no need to stay back, because not only are you risking your life, but you're risking the lives of the folks who come to your rescue. So you don't want to do that. If they ask you to leave, it's a good reason why. They know what they're doing. Emergency management officials prepare for this day in and day out. They know what criteria are met when evacuations are ordered. So if they ask you to leave, just leave. It's time to do that. So just follow all those directions, and we hope you stay safe. And I think, Shay, you have got the kind of the track record here, Florence.
I sure do. This is from Friday, September the 7th, a week ago. And we go back, we can run this thing forward, but you see the line down the middle. You don't stare directly at that line, but I'm going to show you what happens here on Friday, September the 7th. As we get a little bit closer in, this is Florence coming across the Atlantic just to the south of Bermuda. And here we go. So this is where the 5-day track comes up right to there. This is from Saturday, September the 8th, when this came out. This is about 6 days ago at 11 p.m. So we're almost 6 days in advance of this. The NHC putting this as a major hurricane. They got the intensity off by 1 scale. But the thing is that track really stayed kind of focused in on that the entire time. I mean, look at this. They were dead on. I mean, I can't say enough about how accurate that is going 6 days out with all of the uncertainties at days 3 through 5, starting at this point right here. So, I mean, I just, that's just incredible to me that they were able to do that and stay with it.
Definitely so. And like Ricky was talking about, a lot of fluctuation in the models that we follow, but stayed true. It's kind of like when they tell you go with your gut feeling. That's what the Hurricane Center did, and it's really paid out for them. So, all right, guys. Well, we're going to start to close. Anybody have any final comments, Ricky?
I just want to, kind of just say something more on a personal level, Scotty. I mean, you and I both have spent a lot of time in Charlotte, North Carolina. I spent 4 years there. You've been down there a lot. We work with Charlotte Motor Speedway on some things. We obviously have a lot of friends and family living in the Charlotte area. This flooding threat that is going to develop tomorrow across the Charlotte area is a significant one, and perhaps one of which the Mecklenburg County Charlotte area has never seen. And so don't just take it lightly. Don't take it as, oh, it's just raining, no big deal. If your house doesn't see some water, if your street doesn't see water, that's a good thing, because I can promise you that somewhere across Mecklenburg County, there will be a significant flood impact. In fact, Greg Carbon, who works at the WPC, just liked one of my tweets talking about how Charlotte's a wonderful city. And the amount of rain they could see over the next couple of days could cause catastrophic flooding. So obviously we don't want anyone to be hurt. We don't want anyone to lose their life. And the number one related flood deaths during systems like this are from people driving into floodwaters. They're 100% preventable. So let's keep it that way.
Yeah, you're right, Ricky. I mean, Charlotte is a beautiful city. Just there's not a lot of runoff area, and so that water will accumulate really fast, and definitely needs to you need to pay attention tomorrow if you're in Charlotte or around there. Jared, Shay, do you guys any closing words before we sign off for tonight?
One for me. Whoever runs Frying Pan Shoals B&B, take that flag and put it in a museum.
Jared?
How about King Euro? I've so many. I had Euro truthers in my mentions this morning, and yeah, folks. Ricky actually tweeted a great thing. It's like, even Victoria's Secret uses more than one model. So I mean that's it's so true. And as Ricky and Shay were talking about earlier, that accuracy that the Hurricane Center, there is no reason to use anything else. Those guys are the best at what they do, and so. Got a lot of thinking to do as we get through the storm in the post, but I do hope people see now that models aren't everything.
It's a tool, but we have lots of tools to work with.
Exactly.
It's just one thing I want to talk just a mention right quick, and Ricky, this is kind of down your neighborhood here. I want to give props from when we've not been doing stuff here on our page, social media wise, and posting stuff and doing forecasts. I've been watching the Weather Channel, local affiliates, and I want to give a big thank you to the folks who, I know you may see it as show and they're out there in the elements, but I mean, they're bringing the story, and they're bringing parts of things that we'd never be able to see. So a big thank you to all the affiliates who are out covering this system, and all those with the Weather Channel or local media. They're out in the elements, and it only takes one foul wind gust to knock something off and hit one of them and hurt them. They're out there risking their safety to bring you the story and bring us the story. So a big thank you to those folks as well. I know they become under fire a lot, especially today. One individual that we won't mention, but honestly, they're out there covering the story for us to know, and just a big thank you to all those folks out there. So as we close up shop tonight, I think we may do one of these tomorrow, maybe not. We'll kind of talk about it internally. We may do it since there's a big threat over Charlotte and Columbia and things like that. But hopefully tomorrow night will be our last show as we kind of wrap up and send Florence on out up into the Northeast and let them deal with Florence for the last few days. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for following us. I can't say how many likes we've got on our Facebook page. I think we're up to like 15,000 folks following us on Facebook now. We're over 25 or 3,000 followers on Twitter. You need to follow us on Twitter. We need to raise that number up a little bit. But honestly, thank you guys for trusting us with your service. We've all had the pleasure to bring it to you. We've all talked after the show, every show, how this is so cool that we're able to come into your lives and your living rooms or wherever you may be and tell you about what's going on. So thank you for allowing us to do that, and we'll do it one more time tomorrow night before we kind of wrap up things with Florence. So for everyone here on the panel, Ricky Matthews, Shea Gibson, Jared Smith, for James Brierton and Chris Jackson, and everyone else with the Carolina Weather Group, I'm Scotty Powell. We hope you have a great night. Charlotte, stay safe tomorrow. Don't do anything dumb.